comedy, and combat sports, then we have the podcast for you because we cover that and much, much more.
Do you like to debate with your friends? Do we have the perfect segment for you? It's the 531, where we take any given subject, break it down to a top 5. From there, we debate it down to 3, and then into that number 1 spot.
If you want to get a hold of us, find us on our social medias. Search Working Fans Podcast on any major social media platform. And if you want to find the podcast, search for us on any major podcast platform, as well as YouTube.
Working Fans Podcast. We put in the work so you don't have to.
We are live, baby. I'm laughing because I think somebody might be ready to join us here pretty soon. But Chevy, how we doing? Episode 30, by the way.
30, nice.
Yeah.
Flying by.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be talking top boxers of the 80s today, and me and you also realize there's a UFC card this weekend, so we're just gonna talk about the main event. But why don't you tell the good people what we got in the next few weeks?
All right. So coming up on the 22nd, we're going to be previewing UFC 270. That's Ngannou versus Gane, or Gane, and maybe Ngannou's last UFC fight. We'll see. And then on the 29th, we're going to go back to our boxing with best boxers of the 90s. So start thinking about those lists. And then February 5th, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night, Jack Hermanson versus Sean Strickland. So that should also be a good fight.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right, man. We got a lot of lists, so let's just get right to this. I'm going to start off with my man Randy Osgood. By the way, people, I'm sick. I'm a little raspberry. Macho Man Randy Savage style here today. So if my voice gives out on me, I tried my best. But I will make sure to get two of our favorite people that like to send this list all the times. First, Randy Osgood. He's got Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Larry Holmes, Aaron Pryor. Chevy, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to see, as we call them, the four kings, Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, Duran on a lot of these lists, plus Mike Tyson. Now, this one didn't have, it had Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was kind of almost like that right next to him guy on this list. I actually kept track and got some numbers this week. So, my next list, go a little out of order, but our boy Scott from Voluntown, he's got Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson. And now we'll go to all these boxing's lists that producer Joe was nice enough to get for me this weekend. So you know, a lot of Ray Leonard, Hagler, Hearns, Tyson. Look, we'll just read off a couple first, and we'll talk about some of these guys. Angelo Batista, he's got Mike Tyson, Sweet Pea, which is Pernell Whitaker, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Roberto Duran. And then I got Mark Joyce. Never mind this guy. He asked why there's so much hate. He said, where's Muhammad? If he's talking about Ali, I'm thinking it's because Ali only, I think, fought to about maybe 81. So, yeah. So let me read another person's list here. Daniel Phillips. He's got JCC. I'm going to say that's Julio Cesar Chavez. Sweet Pea, Sugar Ray, B-Hop. I'm going to assume that's Bernard Hopkins.
Oh, B-Hop. Okay.
And Butterbean.
That's a list right there. All right.
Yeah, it's a list.
I like that one.
Butterbean made a list there. So like in preparation of this, I was looking at some stuff like that Sugar Ray Leonard had done, and he was one of the four kings, and I think a little bit more than more successful ones. This is some of his professional accomplishments. NABF welterweight championship, WCB welterweight championship victory over Wilfred Benitez, 15 rounds, TKO. So he TKO'd him at round 15.
Yep.
And we got another championship welterweight over Roberto Duran.
That was the No Mas, right?
Right. And then we got a WBA junior middleweight championship, a name I'm not familiar with, Ayub Kalu. We got another welterweight championship over Tommy Hitman Hearns. A middleweight championship over Marvelous and Marvin Hagler. That was like fight of the year and upset of the year by Ring Magazine, a lot of magazine publications. Then he went on in 1989 and became the super middleweight champion over Donnie Lalonde, and that was also for the light heavyweight championship. So, welterweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight. I mean,
I think he won titles in 5 divisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, boxing, the divisions are like every 3 pounds. So for all of our listeners that are, mostly in MMA, it's not quite as impressive as going from, featherweight to light heavyweight, but
yeah, it's something else.
It is a big deal.
Yeah. His amateur credentials too. He looks like he was a gold medalist in the 1976 Olympics as well. Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the best in the world. There's no doubt. That's why he's one of the 4 kings. So continuing on with this list here, we got Martino Valao. He's got Mike Tyson, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Salvador Sanchez, and Matthew Saad Muhammad. So
I don't know Salvador Sanchez off the top of my head.
No, I mean, were you? Did you get to watch any of these guys fight?
Yeah, I watched a few fights when I was doing the research. Yeah, I mean, I was born in '89, so I didn't watch any of these fights when they happened, but I've rewatched them. Yeah.
Because we were talking last week, I could tell you saw Gotti Ward, and that seemed like kind of where you were watching boxing at that point. Fair?
Yeah, late '90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
We got Robert McDevitt. He's got Hopkins, Leonard Hearns, Duran Hagler, Marco Montez. He's got the 4 kings and Tyson. Ian Brown's got Larry Holmes, Hagler, Hearns, Duran, Ray Leonard. We got another list here: Ronnie Ruggiero, Tyson, Ray Leonard, Hearns, Duran, Hagler. It's just a common theme with these lists, and I got in the comments here my boy Randy saying, "Let's go, Chevy and Dave. You guys are the best," and also say he gave us an interesting list. You did, Randy, and I read it at the top of the show. So if you missed it, I'm sorry, pal. But we started off with you.
Yeah, number 1 fan, number 1 list.
Catch the replay, son. Oh man. So I'm realizing I wrote down how many people wrote us these lists, so it's getting a little redundant. I don't want to
It's a lot of 4 kings.
Yeah, I don't want to skip a lot of these people, but I also feel like it's just repetitive for me to keep reading these over and over again. So some people might not get credit this week. So sorry, guys. We'll figure out a format. Thank you, Randy. I hope I feel better too. We're going to get through it. Chevy, why don't you read me your list?
All right. So coming in at number 5, I was glad to hear somebody else also had this gentleman, Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker. So I had him. He was the 1989 Boxer of the Year by Ring Magazine. His style was, he had this very defensive style, but unlike Floyd Mayweather, he was going forward and he was just super slick with his head movement and his footwork. He didn't shell up like Floyd, but I would say after Floyd, he's maybe the greatest defensive boxer that I can think of. He was a Hall of Fame inductee. Actually, all my boxers that I picked are in the Hall of Fame. So
nice.
he was number 5 for me. Then we talked a lot about this guy last week too, but Marvin Hagler. So, his fight style is like power and pressure and durability. I think he only got knocked down once in his entire career, which is amazing for, the way that he fought. Number 3, I had Julio Cesar Chavez. His record was 107, 3-2 with 86 knockouts. So hold on, I wrote this down somewhere. He won 89 fights before his first loss, and his first draw was against Pernell Whitaker after 87 wins in a row. He's a Mexican boxing legend. He's like a god in Mexico, as he should be. He's amazing, but wish we could say the same about his son, who got knocked out by Anderson Silva last year. So then number 2, I picked Mike Tyson in the 80s. So we're talking about the 80s. So Mike Tyson was 37-0 with 33 knockouts in the 80s. So this was his, prime, before he started getting real crazy and doing a bunch of blow and whatever else he was doing outside the ring. Biting people. So obviously is a cultural icon and everything, but in the 80s he was a boxing phenomenon. Number 1 would be Sugar Ray Leonard for me. Just his style. He had that like slick, smooth, like elusive style with lots of like very precise punching. Had a lot of exciting fights. He was one of the 4 kings. I don't know what else we could say about him. We already talked a bunch at the top, but that was my list.
Yeah, and to answer Sean's question in the comments or his statement, Shamrock, about most of these guys being before after the 80s. I think there were a few people that were after the 80s on some of these lists, but for the most part, Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, most of their majority fights happened in the 80s. Leonard and Hagler fought like in 87, and that was after No Mas too. It's interesting. I grew up watching Sugar Ray Leonard. That was like my introduction into boxing. My dad was already a boxing fan. He loved like Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and some of the Leonard. And one of the guys he mentioned was Sugar Ray Leonard. Well, Ali's winding down in the 80s at this point. And I start watching Ray Leonard. Leonard's not winding down, though. Like, he's picking up steam. He's winning all these crazy fights. And then I remember hearing as a kid he had an eye injury and he took time off. And I thought, he kind of disappeared. And then he had this big fight with Marvin Hagler come up. And, like, I just remember being so excited. And it was probably the first time as a young person getting that big fight feel, like just getting super excited about this potential fight. And then I remember everybody saying what an underdog he was against Marvin. So I was just super excited he won this fight, and I thought that was so cool. Now, going back and watching the fight years later, I can see why Hagler was pissed and thought he won the fight. That being said, it was a great fight, real back and forth, but I thought Hagler had done enough to win the fight. I just feel like there's Sean Shamrock in the comments here. I just feel like so much longer ago. I was born in 81 and didn't see boxing until the early 90s. I think that's a fair thing, and I think that's like when Chevy's talking. Like, Chevy's born in 89, so he's not seeing that. You're a little younger. I was born 76, so I have like these early memories of some of these guys. And but even me, like, I don't remember No Mas. I kind of remember hearing about that. I remember Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. And I remember Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns. So Ray Leonard's on my list. You got to have the 4 kings: Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran. All make that list, and Mike Tyson has got to be there too. Larry Holmes. He was probably on his way to being that top 80s heavyweight boxer until a guy named Mike Tyson showed up. And then forget it. Then we had Tyson's Punch Out, and shit just wasn't going to be the same. Now, Tyson was also big in the early 90s, mid 90s too. So it was kind of like, to me, he kind of owned both decades a little bit.
Yeah.
But when I was coming up with this list, based on all the people we got, I had basically the top 3 vote getters. I had 22 for Mike Tyson, 23 for Ray Leonard, and 25 for Marvin Hagler, actually.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, arguably, Marvin beat Duran, and he beat Tommy Hearns, and he arguably beat Ray Leonard. So I can kind of see the point.
That makes sense.
But, I mean, that's going to be our top 3 voter. We'll discuss this a little bit. I think, I don't know. It's interesting. Was Tyson more the fighter of the 80s or the 90s?
I think his popularity was much larger in the 90s, but his record in the 80s, just being undefeated. I mean, I think he started in 85, so it's the beginning of his career. I'm sure he's fighting some cans, but also he's just a monster. So it's tough.
Yeah, I feel like Tyson's going to get the fighter of the 90s possibly when we do this.
Yeah.
So, I like, I respected people who voted Hagler here, and I understand that. But to me, I don't know. I think Ray Leonard was the guy. I mean, ultimately, he did get his hand raised, and maybe I don't know if Hagler didn't go off and retire, and I understand why he probably did, but if he had it, maybe it'd be a different story. But in my eyes, Ray Leonard's kind of the man.
I'm right there with you. Like as soon as we talked about this, this 80s topic, my first thought was Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that he was on so many lists. I could see, like you said, people wanting to go with Hagler because, he arguably won that fight. But I think overall in the 80s, you just have to go with Sugar Ray.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ray. I'm going to give Tyson the silver just because he was such a cultural icon. And we'll give Hagler the bronze. But runner-up, Tommy Hearns. And then probably Larry Holmes got a little more votes than Roberto Duran. But, I mean, it's a great topic. This was really just a rich history in boxing. And I think it's one of those eras you could go back and just watch, and you're going to see some good fights.
Yeah, this was the next era after that, the golden era, the heavyweight golden era of boxing, and then we get another era coming in the 90s, which, we'll talk about at the end of the month. But
right now, big UFC fight this weekend, main event. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What's going on?
We got Giga Chikadze is fighting Calvin Kattar. So Chikadze's he has like kickboxing championships. I don't remember how many fights he has in the UFC, but it's maybe 5 or so. He's very dangerous on the feet. No one's really been able to take him down and hold him down, so we're not sure what his ground game looks like, but he's really good with his feet, and I think that personally that I think is going to give him the edge over Kattar. Kattar is so boxing heavy with his attack. I see him getting leg kicked a lot, which hurts his footwork, and then possibly finished via head kick. Some, spinning wheel kick or hook kick or something flashy.
I don't feel like Kattar's going to be the kind of guy that takes him to the ground either.
No, I don't even know if I've ever seen him attempt to take down.
No,
but he is all heart too. So after watching him take that beating from Max, hopefully he doesn't take another one like that. But yeah. I could possibly see it going the distance just because he's so tough also.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Kattar hasn't fought since that fight, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, so that's good. He took off about a year.
Yeah. He needed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Dana was I want this kid going to the hospital, and I don't want us taking any chances. Yeah, one of the few times you see Dana like super concerned like that.
Right. Well, it's not good for business if a fighter dies after a fight. So
no, it's not.
I'm sure it's not any genuine, concern, but.
Yeah, and Randy asking us that's why the Rocky movie is so popular. I think he's referring to when we're talking about the fights in the 80s. I would say not only that, the first Rocky movie came out in like 76, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that also was based on like guys like Muhammad Ali and Rocky Marciano. There's just a rich history in boxing. You got to remember it. Not until like the mid 90s we had our first like UFC card. I think UFC 1 was like 96 or something like that, right? Or
I think it was 92, maybe.
92.
I think it was a little bit earlier than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you're right. I can't remember now.
I can't either. On top of my head, but so it was a long time ago. Was my point was boxing. Boxing's been around since the beginning of the 1900s. Maybe I don't know. It's like like boxing is such a rich history, and that's why you find movies like Rocky were so successful because people were just drawn to guys like Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali really turned the sport on its ass too. I mean, he was the guy I think that really put a tremendous amount of focus on the sport of boxing.
Right, his showmanship, helped build fights, which then helped get people to watch them, and then his fighting style kept people watching.
Which guys like Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor, so many people have copied since. And Ali, little known fact, got that from I believe it was Gorgeous George in professional wrestling. He saw
professional wrestling. It all comes back to it, baby.
It all comes back to the entertainment. You got to know how to sell.
Right.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna agree with you this week. Because Kattar's not really a wrestler. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. I'll say it goes the distance, though, just because he's such a badass. And I hope he doesn't take too much punishment in the process. But other than that, I think this week I do want to get your comments on. It was just made official before we started recording this. The Korean Zombie will be taking on Volkanovski now. I like him, and stranger things have happened, but I don't know. I don't think he gets it done here.
I'm not sure. So I think last week I said he was coming off a loss, which is inaccurate. He fought Dan Ige, I think in November? It was near the end of the year. But he was saying, I read today that he had a shoulder injury where he tore all sorts of stuff in his shoulder. And the nature of like those types of injuries, I'm not sure how he's going to be able to fight. I would imagine you're out for almost a year with injuries where you're tearing all the tendons and ligaments in your shoulder. So I don't think that's going to help him at all. He's tough. I don't see him getting knocked out by Volkanovski, but I think Volkanovski just has more ways to win. We talked about Cejudo last week and how he just has that winning mentality. Well, I think Volkanovski has some of that as well, and I think he'll just do whatever he has to do to win, whether it's wrestling, or whether it's heavy leg kicks or just trying to knock out the zombie because the zombie's going to walk into punches. So we'll see.
So Randy Meza, and it's actually funny. This is a good segue because as we were recording, guy who wants to be on the boxing but hasn't really worked out yet, who's not as big an MMA fan but loves the boxing, our own AJ Strangeru just messaged me, Covington Masvidal, UFC 272.
March.
Yep. March 5th. Randy's talking about in the comments. So, all right, screw it. Let's bring this up because people are already buzzing about this one. I like Kobe. I think Masvidal, you can never underestimate. He might hit you with a flying knee. He's got amazing striking, but I think Kobe's just such a constant machine. And He's got a good chin. He's durable. I don't know. I got Kobe. I'll say it goes the distance, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kobe TKOs him late.
I don't see him TKOing Masvidal.
I meant because I know you, but I do want to clarify that. Maybe he's got him down and he's hitting him, and
they stop it. Yeah.
Right?
He's not in danger of being knocked out, but he's just taking punishment, so they stop it. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that this fight's going to be very similar to the Usman Masvidal, the first fight, where Colby's just going to pressure him so much to smother him so that Masvidal won't be able to get his offense off. So I think we're going to see a lot of clinching on the cage, a lot of takedowns, and then Masvidal tries to get up, but Colby's not advancing position because he doesn't want to engage at that distance. I think it's going to be a boring fight. I think the build-up's going to be much better than the actual fight will be. I am excited for it. I'm not even sure who I want to win that fight. I'm not a giant Colby fan, but I'm not sure. I kind of like both guys. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Colby really earned my respect in that last fight with Usman.
Right. It's obviously all an act or whatever, the same way that you appreciate heels in pro wrestling. That's exactly what he's doing. Is it kind of shitty and annoying? Yeah. It's not super funny or original or anything, but he's trying to do something and it's working. I can't fault the guy for trying to get paid. So it is interesting that they used to be like training partners. So, I mean, this was at least a year ago that they haven't been at this point. So we'll see what each fighter has learned in that time and see if they can do anything different, surprise their opponent. But I'm excited for the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. This should be good. I think you're right. There's going to be a great trash talk to lead up to it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, though, I bet you they both still respect each other. Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably, friendly behind closed doors.
DM him like, you believe we got these bitches?
Yeah, exactly. Let's get that money. Guys. Yeah.
My voice is giving out on me, unfortunately. So, Chevy, why don't you hit them what we got coming up one more time, and we'll get out of here.
All right. So on the 22nd, we're going to be previewing UFC 270 and Ngannou versus Gane. Maybe Francis's last fight before he tramps off into boxing to fight Tyson Fury. Hopefully, that'd be great. And then at the end of the month on the 29th, we're going to be doing top boxers of the 90s. So everyone start thinking about your list for the 90s. And then February 5th, we're going to be doing UFC Fight Night, Hermanson versus Strickland.
That should be a good one. So good fights coming up. We'll talk about boxing in the 90s somewhere in there as well. And guys, I'm limping out of here. But as always, thanks for tuning into the Combatcast. See ya.